It's a beautiful day. Thanks for joining us today on News Talk 870. And a good day to talk about the Reach. That's the facility I was talking about. You know, that building took quite a while to get off the ground, but finally it is done. If you haven't been there, you must. You must go. We have the CEO of the Reach with us today, Lisa Toomey. Basically, I know that you don't like to hear this, Lisa. You're just too good of a person, but you saved that project. And I know a lot of people are really, really grateful to you. So thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Tell people who maybe don't know where the Reach is. Where's it located?
We're located at the west end of Columbia Park. So if you take Columbia Center Boulevard right down to the river and you turn right, you go about a quarter of a mile. And then you turn right. We have a little new road and a little sign that says 1943, which is our official address.
1943.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well,
Yes.
that's and so share with people what that connection is. 1943.
Well, one of the major stories that we're telling in the Reach is the story of the Manhattan Project. So we got to choose our address, so we chose 1943.
Oh, that's perfect. And so this was a. It's a new facility, plus you took on the Crest Museum, is that correct?
Yes, when we began the process of redefining this project in 2012, it was also an assignment to deaccession and dissolve the Crest Museum and to take elements of that and incorporate it into the Reach.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to go too far back in history, but when was this project first conceived?
Well, it really started in the late 1990s when a grassroots effort started to save the Hanford Reach as a national monument. And once that was done and named by President Clinton, the same group of people wanted to create an interpretive center to tell that story. So it really started about 2002.
2002. Oh boy, that took a long time to really get going. And how much did what was the original price tag on the building?
Oh my goodness. Well, the original price tag was $42 million, and it was to be sited at Columbia Point. The tribes objected, but the project did move forward. Millions of dollars were raised and millions of dollars were spent, and the building wasn't constructed. And probably starting in around 2011, the Richland City Council felt like it was time for some major changes and some action. And they began to appoint new board members, and then I was hired in January of 2012 to figure out a way to build the Reach.
So it went from 42 million to what was the end price tag?
The end price tag total is what we're insured for is $12 million.
Wow.
That includes the building, the new road, the infrastructure work, all of it. And the good news is that there was money for all of that. So we, we're in the building, all the exhibits are paid for. We're up and running now.
Yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful building. So if I go there, why would I go there?
Probably the most important reason to go to the Reach is to learn about our stories. This facility is an education facility, but our focus is on telling the stories of this region. And there are some very unique stories: the Ice Age floods, the Hanford Reach National Monument, the Manhattan Project, the Columbia River. There are so many stories, and our goal is to tell them all. We do have some limited space, so we have to tell them in a variety of ways. But that's our goal, and then to introduce learners of all ages to those stories.
Mm-hmm. So you will be basically left hand, right hand with the new national monument out there with B reactors. Is that how it's perceived?
Well, how the community tells the story of that project and the Manhattan Project will be dependent on the Department of Energy and the National Park Service. However, the Reach is very anxious to be a partner, and to our primary goal would be to serve as the gateway to that story. We're already telling the story of the Manhattan Project. We have a Manhattan Project exhibit. We have some great enhancements that will be opening on our first birthday at the beginning of July. We have a couple of books that are going to be coming out. We have a play that will be produced in early June. It's actually the story of Much Ado About Nothing, but it's going to be told in 1945 with people coming back from World War II to Richland.
Wow.
A lot going on.
Yeah, that is. I'm going to share our phone number again. Remember, it's 509-547-8726. If you have a question maybe for Lisa or want to add to the conversation with a comment, we'd be happy to bring you in. So how can the building, which is quite beautiful in itself, be used by the community? Can I rent it?
Absolutely.
Part of it?
You know, when this building was first reconfigured, we wanted to be able to multi-purpose it. And we have that incredible view of the river. So we wanted a space that would not only tell stories through exhibits, we also wanted a space that could be used for special occasions and special events. And we also wanted our spaces outdoors to be used to teach children and adults about the shrub step and about agriculture, which are two important aspects of this community. So people come, they do field trips or just tours of the building. We have add-on programs. People do meetings in our facility. We have done a couple of proms. We've done a few wedding receptions.
Wow.
We've had probably one that was particularly meaningful for us was when Sal Mendoza was named to the federal bench, and he had his reception at the Reach, and it really just imbued the facility with a wonderful sense. And so we want this building to be meaningful for this community.
Well, so far it definitely is. You know, when Lisa first got here, she opened up her notebook. It's a spiral notebook, and she started writing some things down. And she told me that this is her 17th notebook that she has filled up during this time that you have been running this project. And you also told me that it was the hardest thing you've ever done in your life. Why is that so?
Well, it was a challenging project. There was a lot of hard feelings in the community, and so my whole career has been about building relationships. So I felt that was the place to start, was to rebuild relationships in this community. And there were so many elements to it. I had to write it all down just because I didn't want to forget.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes too, when I would meet with people, they would give me great ideas, and I knew that I couldn't use them then, but I knew that at some point we'd be ready for those ideas. So I wanted to be able to go back and remember what was it that was said.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been good.
Yeah, just as a side note, and then I'll get back to what we're doing here. But, you know, when I first moved to the community 25 years ago, really soon after that, you were running the Goodwill Games as it related to
Okay, you're
the
really dating me.
I really am. But that really stuck in my mind because that was a huge leadership role to take on in this community. And how do those two projects compare?
Well, I think they're both very transformative. That brought huge international attention to this community. It also introduced me to the amazing creativity and innovation of people here. I was just thunderstruck. And the same thing has happened here, in that once people became re-engaged, they started coming to us and asking, how can we help? How can we be a partner? And now we have so many partners, federal partners, state partners, nonprofit organizations, education institutions, arts groups, science groups. It's just fantastic that they see this as a platform that they can help share their stories as well.
All right. Well, we're going to take a break here. Again, I want to give you that number, 547-8726. And when we come back from this break, I'll talk with Lisa about the reason I invited her in the first place, and that was to talk about some of the programs going on this summer for children. Stick around. This is Meet in the Middle. I'm Christine Brown. So glad you could join us today. My guest is Lisa Toomey. She's the CEO of The Reach. It's down there, located in, actually, are you in Columbia Park?
Yes, the west end of Columbia Park.
1943.
Yes.
I like that. All right. So I want to talk a little bit about money, because it's always, you see these programs, and for me anyway, and I'm sure a lot of people also, how do you support yourself? How are you going to maintain? So there was one thing to build it, Now it's to maintain it. How does that happen?
Well, it's a challenge. Most public buildings lose money. Track, the convention center, I mean, public facilities are typically money losers. However, the way we're set up is we are absolutely required to be sustainable. So, we have to be very careful. We look at our cash flow every single month. We make modifications, but we do have sources of income. We do get a hotel, motel, and sales tax to pay our bond. And then we derive income from admissions, from the event rentals, from memberships, education activities, although typically education doesn't raise money, but it's our primary mission. And so we're learning, what's the balance, what's the correct formula. And if we stay on track the way we are now, we should come out right at zero at the end of the year, which would be a miracle.
All right. we like miracles.
We do.
Yes.
Well, getting it built was a miracle
yes,
too.
There you go. That was the first miracle.
Yeah.
You better believe it. All right. What about programs for children in the summer? I've talked to many educators and learned how important it is that children's brains stay engaged, and they just lose a lot over the summertime.
They do. We've been actually doing education programs since before we had a building. It was one of the first things I really wanted to get us started on 3 years ago, and we used the library. This summer, we're really focusing on a lot of science. We kind of got started with our spring break camp where we combined science and natural resources with art. So this summer, young people can take day camps. We have several day camps through the summer that will do things like robotics and the wind and being a rocket scientist and botany. And then we also have 2 actual week-long summer camps. One is focused on biology, and the other one is focused on food, which is a pretty big producer for us here in the region. But in addition to that, we have these things called Make and Take Saturdays, where kids, adults, families can come in and we do a project where they make it, they can take it with them and do it again. We do off-site tours for adults.
What am I going to make? That sounds fun.
It depends. If it's related to wind, you might make pinwheels or kites. The education staff are very creative with working with nothing. We're really excited about the robotics and the rocketry because in the fall we're actually going to do a conference on drones and UAVs. So when we were talking to our partners, I said, how do we introduce children to these themes? And they said, well, you need to teach them about robotics and you need to teach them about rockets, and then that will be a good segue for older kids and adults to learn about the use of drones, which, by the way, is incredible here in this region.
Yes, it is.
It is. It's fascinating. So, our goal is to have activities going on in the building all the time, where if you want to just do a tour, that's great, and you want to do it yourself, okay. If you want someone to guide you, we have amazing trained interpreters who can really fill out the experience when you visit our exhibits. We have a lot of events. We're going to do Music Man this summer and Much Ado About Nothing. We're going to do an event on July 4th, and we have our camps. So our goal is to really give people a good reason to come back again and again.
Well, I'm going to go back to the guided tours. Do I have to make a reservation, or are there always people there? How does that work?
There are always interpreters. They've all been trained by the National Park Service, and I have to tell you, they bring the exhibits alive. They've whether they're geologists or former Hanford employees, they really help visitors get a sense of what really happened here and what is happening here. And just that person-to-person perspective is just so important.
Well, people that have been there, they always have additional stories that maybe aren't even in the exhibits that I'm sure they're adding to it.
And people will come in and they'll get to talking about their own experiences, particularly in the Manhattan Project, where you'll have someone come in who said an aunt or an uncle or a mother or father worked at Hanford, and they can kind of compare notes and talk about the important work that was done during the war.
So how far away have people come to visit?
Probably the most recent was we had a group come from Japan, and they were actually doing a video, a production company and we've had people from Europe and around the United States. It's really quite remarkable. We'll actually have had over 25,000 people in the building by our first birthday in July. And that doesn't include students. That's just adults.
Wow. Back about Japan, what are they doing the film on? Does it have anything to do with the Manhattan Project?
Actually, it was not only about the Manhattan Project, but the Cold War and the weapons buildup. I think they were preparing an anniversary video, with the bombing of Nagasaki is the 70th anniversary in August.
Okay.
August 9th. So obviously it's of quite a bit of interest to folks in Japan. And it was wonderful to meet with them and talk with them and to get their perspective. It was a really meaningful experience.
Well, a lot of us may not realize that there certainly were a lot of workers, and they were scattered throughout the country, who worked on a variety of projects like the Manhattan Project. And so there's just this interest, this thirst, that I don't think that a lot of people realized or recognized some 20 years ago or 10 years ago.
Well, many of the people who worked on the Manhattan Project have died, but their children and their children's children, we're seeing a huge uptick in boomers who are fascinated by the Manhattan Project story. And now that we are part of the national park along with Los Alamos and Oak Ridge, I think we're going to see a huge increase in visitation related to that story. And for us, we feel like it's a primary story of this community, but it also helps us cross-promote other stories like the Ice Age floods and the Hanford Reach National Monument, which kind of are all tied together, along with the Columbia River and Grand Coulee Dam and the Columbia Basin Project. All of these pieces are integrated. So we might bring them in for one reason, but we're going to try to share our other stories while they're there.
Okay. Well, I want to talk a little bit about the future. So you have a basement, I understand.
Yes, we do. We have a 10,000 square foot unfinished basement, which, bless the hearts of the board, they were thinking ahead that we would need space at some point, but they wanted to make sure all the bills were paid before we move forward. So our goal there is to really talk about agriculture through the lens of food. And so we will, the goal that the conceptual designs include a commercial kitchen, space for teaching and learning about food, and then an actual exhibit about food, water, and climate change. So, and then our big vision is to expand Gallery 2 to do the full build out of the Hanford story.
Yeah. Well, basement wise, how does that fit into the next 10 years? What are you thinking?
Well, that's what we want to do right now. So it's and I've got proposals out to get that funded, because it's, agriculture is a huge driver in this community, in this state, this region, and this area is uniquely positioned to solve issues related to global hunger. And we want to talk about that, not just about food, but about our role in producing food and how creative folks are here related to that.
Who are your biggest local community supporters from the past or current?
Well, obviously we've got Hanford Contractors. Battelle was hugely significant in us, hanging in there with us to get this job done. The City of Richland, the council, it's just, but there are a lot of individuals like Alan Brecky, who saw something special here and said, I want to be a part of this. And those people continue to come forward. They see what this could be. They see the platform that it represents.
All right. Lisa, we've learned all kinds of things about the Reach, the present, what you're going to be doing this summer, your future. Very, very helpful to us. And I'll tell you folks, if you have not been to the Reach, if there's not been some reason like a meeting or a party or something, go there. Just go there this summer. You'll be impressed.
Just as a visitor, absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. Lisa Toomey, thank you very much from the Reach.
Thank you.
All right, we're back in just a couple of minutes. We'll wrap up today's program. Stick around.